right, so as you can see, my presentation today is going to be focused on diminishing anxiety during the third stage of the information search process, the exploration stage that a lot of students experience, using subject encyclopedias. So this is a title screen for you guys as fellow library students. This isn't something I would show the class. So just so you have an idea of where I'm coming from as a colleague and what I'm going to be doing with this session.
And now you're starting.
Almost.
Okay.
Okay, so welcome to the Academia College of Liberal Arts. And I would like you guys to all kind of close your eyes for a minute. Okay. Think back to moving into your dorm room freshman year. Think back to what that was like, the excitement, the nervousness, the anxiety, right? Your parents dropping you off, leaving you there, and you're alone, but you're excited about this new life. I'm going to be living here for 4 more years. A few weeks go by, everything's great, you've made some friends. Everything's kind of falling into place for you, but you know what? There's that work you have to do for your classes, and it's really starting to make you anxious because you haven't done research at this level before. So now, open your eyes, and welcome to class. Welcome back. We're going to be continuing to talk about research today and the research method and research topics. And we're going to focus on subject encyclopedias and how you can use them as a tool to make the research process easier for you. As you know, my name is Kristen Cangelosi. I'm the social sciences librarian here at the Codices Sophia Library, and you already have my contact information on your syllabus. So, how many of you have ever been assigned some kind of research assignment and felt stressed out at some point while doing the research? That's pretty much everybody. Okay, so I am also part of that as well. Research can be extremely stressful and frustrating. Does anybody want to share their experience or what stresses them out about a research paper? Yes, Brenda.
Every time I got to write this paper for Western Civ, and we've already got our assignment, and I went into Google and I just typed in a topic that I wanted to write on, and I get a gazillion results. And
yes.
I just don't know where to start.
Right, and I think that's we've all experienced that to some degree, where you go on Google, you're looking for something, and you're just getting all these results, and some of them have nothing to do with what you're trying to learn about or the information you need, right? Anyone else? Philip?
There's like these citation things, and there's like these different styles. I see like MLA and Chicago and Kirby, and I don't understand all of them, and like they all have these different. I don't get it. I'm really confused by it.
Yes. Okay. Very good.
Take different classes.
So if you guys don't know what Philip is talking about, there are different citation styles that are required for different academic subjects or disciplines. Chicago, that Philip mentioned, that's commonly used for history. MLA is commonly used for literature. There's also APA. So these are different styles that, depending upon what your major is or what major you decide to go into, you're going to be using for your papers that you submit to your professor. We are going to get to that a little later in the semester, so I'm very glad you brought that up. But today we're going to be focusing really on a research topic. So
that would be really helpful to me. I just don't know where to start, and my professor won't. They just said to pick a topic. You can write it on anything.
Right.
I don't know where to start.
Exactly. And say you're in a class like World Civilization or Western Civilization, and it's all ancient history. And you don't know much about ancient history. The last time you studied ancient history was in 6th grade. So you don't remember, you don't know what could be a potential topic for you. So this should help you kind of pick a topic, narrow it down, find something that really interests you. So what we're going to talk about now is the information search process. This is the process that everybody goes through when they're looking for information. So not just you all as students, and not just myself as a librarian or as an academic, But this is something everybody goes through in their personal life, and they may not even realize it. So let's just look at the steps of the search process. First, we have initiation. So this, for a research paper, or the research paper you will be having this year in your general ed classes, you're going to get assigned a research paper. That's the initiation. That's when you realize you have some kind of information need. You're going to need to seek out information. And then you have selection. And this is, Brenda, what you were talking about, where you picked a topic and you put it in Google, right? So you selected a topic. So this is choosing kind of a general area that you want to research in, right? So say we're in a US history course, this could be maybe the American Revolution, that sort of time period, right? The next step is exploration. And this is where you learn more about that broad area so that you can find a specific topic and then formulate a thesis and then conduct your research. So I look up more information on the Revolutionary War to get a little more familiar with it. Formulation, the following step. This is where, okay, I did some research. I read about Nathan Hale. He seems like a really fascinating historical figure. So I'm going to have him be part of that's going to be my specific topic, is something to do with Nathan Hale. I'm going to formulate a thesis around that, move on to collection, where I'm gathering sources about Nathan Hale, and then the presentation stage, where I'm going to read everything and kind of compose it into that research paper that my professor assigned. So those are the stages of the information search process. And as I said, it applies to everything, even outside of the world of academia. But what happens is a lot of people, not realizing it, jump from here to here and forget about these two stages completely. So what's happening is you're choosing your general area, Revolutionary War, and then you're jumping right to popping it into Google to collect sources. And you're getting too much information. It's information overload because your topic is not specific enough, right? If you try to use those sources you gathered in that way, after skipping those two stages, this becomes extremely difficult, stressful, and frustrating, because the sources you have are not specific enough for you to write a really good research paper based on a specific thesis. So it may seem like, oh, that's extra work, going through, looking up information to come to a specific topic, but in the long run, it makes the whole process much easier for you and a lot less stressful. Yes?
What's that thesis?
A thesis, that's a good question. A thesis is a statement you formulate that you're going to, and you're going to see this in your classes this year, especially in your general education courses, where you formulate a statement, and then from there you're going to write upon it and defend your statement or your supposition on a particular discipline. Yes, Marissa?
Would formulating a thesis be part of number 4?
Yes, it would, absolutely. And thesis is something that's actually what we're going to get to during actually next week's class, when we move on from exploration. Because today we're really going to focus on the exploration stage, and then we'll discuss how to really formulate a thesis. But good question, Philip. So, an encyclopedia is a really great tool that can help you formulate your thesis and come up with specific research topics. So, an encyclopedia, as you can see there's the definition. It's a reference work, and a reference work does two things. A reference work gives you a brief overview of information, and secondly, a reference work can lead you to other sources. So an encyclopedia is kind of the perfect go-to source to learn a little bit more about a topic, to find some narrow topics that you could use for your research. There are two types of encyclopedias. There are those that have articles on a wide range of subjects, and those that are focused on a specific discipline. So those are general encyclopedias versus subject encyclopedias. So what we're going to be looking at today are subject encyclopedias. Now, in the reference collection here at the Codices Sophia Library, we have, these are just a couple of the examples of the types of subject encyclopedias you may find in the reference collection. So you have Nectar and Ambrosia, an encyclopedia of food and world mythology. So you can see they're very specific to a certain area. So if you're in a class and you're studying mythology and you want to do a research paper on some aspect of mythology, this is an interesting go-to subject encyclopedia for you. So I just wanted to put these up there to give you an idea of what exists within the realm of subject encyclopedias and how many there are and how distinct they are. But today we're going to be looking at one specific tool, the Gale Virtual Reference Library. So this is a great database that we have here that the library pays for your use. And it has over 100 titles, 20 subject areas, and we can search virtually, remotely, so you can search this from home or your dorm room, and you don't have to be in the library physically when searching it. So this is good for you night owls that like to stay up late and do your work kind of late at night, which is what I like to do personally. So I think you'll find the digital options we have very, very helpful. So let's take a look at, just to give you an idea, let's take a look at the titles. Okay, so here is the library's homepage that you're all kind of familiar with. And from there, we are going to enter the Gale Virtual Reference Library. So,
Is that an eyeball?
yes, it is. This was actually just put up yesterday or today. It's for a History of Medicine collection featured on campus. So I know it's
something
pretty,
you usually expect.
yeah, it's pretty interesting image to be confronted with when you go to the library's page. But it's a great collection. You should check it out. It's on South Campus when you have time.
So if I'm looking for the Gale virtual database, do I go onto database?
Yes, that's a very good question, Valerie. This is what we're going to do now, is to go through databases. So we're going to click on databases right here. And this will limit our searching to databases, since Gale Virtual Reference Library is a database, right? So in our search box, Gale Virtual, and it should come up. And there we go. So, yeah, so it's listed there as one of the databases, and what's great to know here is if you click the More Info on any database you're looking at, you can get more of a detailed description of the database. The dates it covers, any kind of print counterpart, any other information a librarian to contact regarding this specific database. Okay, so we're going to enter database and see if we can use an encyclopedia to kind of narrow down a topic. So here we are. This is Gale Virtual Reference Library, and you can see it's categorically divided by subject. There are subjects along the left there. And we're going to say we are in a Western Civilization Part 1 course, or World Civ Part 1 course. So we are studying ancient history up until the 1500s. So let's go to history. So from here you can see the different history titles, and I mean there are some really interesting titles here. The Salem Witch Trials, life during the Salem Witch Trials, and you can see as I scroll over, the little tiny description comes up. But that doesn't really fit into our time period for our class. So let's look at ancient Egypt, the daily life of the ancient Egyptians. And what's great here, and you can see on this table of contents, is that the chapters are divided also by subject. So you have to take World Civ. You have to take World Civ 1 and 2. It's required for you to graduate. You may not be interested in it at all, but if you are a mathematics major, maybe you can go into the medicine and mathematics chapter and find a topic that at least is somewhat interesting to you, so you could kind of make the best out of doing this research paper and find something that relates to your major that you're interested in. So for me, I am very interested in religious studies. So let's go to religion. Okay. So I know I have this paper to write. I picked ancient Egypt. I picked religion. I really don't know much about it. So this is your article to go to really kind of figure out and learn more about it. So I'll read through it. You see some subheadings there, polytheism, right? Oh, there's a chart on the Egyptian gods. and their attributes, different religious practices, and I think a great tool that probably a lot of you maybe skip over in your textbooks when you read are these illustrations and their captions. Because you can get a lot of information from the visuals that are given and the captions that are given with the illustrations. So for example, like this right here is a section of the Book of the Dead. Ooh, interesting. So that's a topic that's sort of interesting to me. I'm going to jot it down and maybe kind of read further and see if there's anything else that catches my interest.
Hey, I wonder if that's the same book mentioned in the Mummy movie.
It might be. That was ancient Egypt, perhaps.
Could I use the mummy as a reference when I write my paper?
I would say it depends on the class and the professor. If you were in a communications class, if it was a media sort of class where popular films were used, or if you wanted to incorporate that in your thesis somehow, absolutely. But it depends on the professor, it depends on the particular assignment you're given. Okay, so here we have the weighing of the heart ceremony. It's a scene from the Book of the Dead. So this Book of the Dead topic seems pretty interesting to me, so that is what I'm going to choose to write my paper on. So now I've done some exploration, but I still need to do more further exploration to really formulate that thesis statement that we're going to talk about next week. If you see here on the left, this reference library lists subjects that are brought up in this particular section of the reference material, reference work. So, Book of the Dead is listed as an option. So if we click that, this brings you search results. Book of the Dead was searched through the entire Gale virtual reference library with their over 100 titles. So the first one there, the first result there we see is from the New Catholic Encyclopedia. So it's a different kind of perspective on the Book of the Dead. The second one is where we just were, the daily life of ancient Egyptians. And then the third one, Encyclopedia of Ancient Egypt. So that's perhaps another source we could kind of take a look at. And it does give you several options here of viewing it as it's set up on the screen, PDF, or you can save the article. So this is kind of what the PDF would look like. You can kind of toggle back and forth as text. And then from here, one of the attributes of a reference work, as I mentioned earlier, is that it lists further reading. So it lists other sources where you can go and learn more about this topic. And the great thing about this is the Book of the Dead is actually a book. So it's listed right here as a potential source, so you have your primary source. So
What's the difference between, a primary source?
good question, good question. A primary source is one that, and this is mostly in history you will confront this, but it does bleed into other interdisciplinary studies as well. But a primary source is the document when it was created, the original document. Whereas a secondary source is a source where someone writes about the original document. So the Book of the Dead is a primary source written by the ancient Egyptian priesthood, or the scribes who transcribed from the priesthood. But scholars listed there in the further readings that published books about the Book of the Dead. Those would be secondary sources. Okay, good question. So just to review, we kind of took our, yeah, Marissa.
I'm sorry, I really hate sourcing things, but could I just take that citation and use that as a citation?
Yes, that's one of the great features of Gale is that it gives you the citation, but if you look, you note it is an MLA. So if your class, if your professor wanted you to write in Chicago, that's not in Chicago style. So you have to be careful when you do that, when you take sources from, citations from sources online or sources in print to make sure it's the proper citation style, and also that there's no errors. We're all human. People put this information in there. People make mistakes. You could have an error. But just to review, basically, we went from ancient Egypt, right, which was kind of our broad area, went to religion, right, and from religion, the Book of the Dead, and we got kind of more specific. So that's how a subject encyclopedia can really help you narrow down your topic. Yes, Jess?
What if I want to search, if I have a subject in mind that wasn't on the left side of the page? You know, when you went to the Book of the Dead, you had the subject on the left.
Yes.
What if I had a different idea?
That wasn't listed
Yeah.
as another entry. I would then take that and use your idea, and then you can search it either in the search box for the reference library and see if it comes up, or you can search it then in the library catalog, which we're going to be talking about that as well. And I do have a subject guide I'm going to give you guys the link to for this, and it does kind of walk you through the process of searching in the catalog and searching for these sources. So now we're going to have a little exercise so you guys could kind of practice what we just went over. Does anyone have any questions? What I'm handing out now are some encyclopedia entries. And they're different. Not everybody has the same. And I'd like you to kind of just take 2 minutes or so, read over it. You're welcome. And see if there is maybe 1 or 2 more specific kind of topics that you can find there. They are all, by the way, from the daily life of the ancient Egyptians. So to kind of continue in that subject area, it's all going to be ancient Egypt.
Can we write on these?
Absolutely. Okay, so I'll give you 2 minutes.
What am I looking for? What am I looking for?
Look for any kind of topics that you see in the entry that are interesting to you, that you think might make a good topic for a research paper.
I thought of something.
Yeah.
Well, mine's on amulets, but I think I have to be even more specific. So I think I'm going to focus on materials and methods of making amulets.
Oh, perfect. That's an excellent topic. Anyone else have amulets? Anyone else in the amulet group that has a different topic that they picked out?
Mass production, which it mentions factories use, and they were making molds to create multiples of the same.
Yes. Yep. Especially for those that didn't have money to afford the more expensive ones as well. Okay, how about another group?
I'm in the amulets.
Yes.
I like cats, so I would like to be a cat.
That sounds great. That's excellent. Everything the cats are a certain symbolic representation, so that would be a perfect thing to look into. Okay, how about a different group? How about Amanda?
I have games.
Games.
And I was thinking there's a lot of division between boys and girls in games.
Yes.
Gendering of gameplay.
Good, good. So that's something you might want to look into is the social aspects of gameplay. Anyone else with the games topics? Marissa?
They did a lot on wrestling and how complex it is. So I think an article, a paper on ancient wrestling would be pretty cool.
Yes. Yep, to look further into the wrestling aspect of it. Okay, how about monotheism? Anyone have a topic for milestone? Jess?
They mentioned the 104th Psalm, and I think it'd be interesting to do like a close reading and comparison of the hymn to Aten in the 104th Psalm.
Yes. That sounds like, are you a literature teacher? Because that sounds like a good literary topic to get into. Anyone else?
I thought it was interesting that it might be interesting to compare it to write either about the Amenhotep or his son Akhenaten. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce
That's okay.
names. And to maybe write about each ruler or compare and contrast to ruling powers, how they ruled.
Yes, I think that would, because that is a huge, huge subject in Egyptology, and the history of Egypt is the way Akhenaten broke away from his father, Amenhotep. Okay, anyone have a scribe topic? Real quick, because we're running out of time here. Yes, Danielle?
I think it would be cool to do some research about hieroglyphs and the cursive form that they use, so the different kinds of handwriting.
Absolutely.
Applications.
Absolutely. It's one of the earliest forms of writing, so that's something definitely interesting to research. Okay, so does anyone have any questions about kind of how to do this or what we just did? No? All right. Well, just to kind of review, so this is what we did. We used an encyclopedia to explore, right? And then we came up with a research topic for the formulation stage. So the next step is going to be then finding sources. And you can see here I showed another example of an encyclopedia, a specific topic, and then taking that topic and searching in the catalog, which is what we're going to look forward to in a few weeks. Next week we're going to focus on formulation, and 2 weeks from now then we'll move into collecting the sources. So that's kind of where we're going in the research process. And for homework for next class, I would like you to you have an assignment in 2 parts, and the first part is on the information search process. So I'm going to give you a blank diagram, and I want you to think about a time in your life, it could have been in school, in high school, but a time in your life when you had to search for information, and I want you to fill in the diagram, what you went through at each stage of the process, and how that experience relates to the information search process. The second part of the assignment is going to be a little more practice of what we did today. So I want you to pick a field that interests you, maybe what you're majoring in, or just some kind of area that interests you if you're interested in art, for example, and then find 3 encyclopedias that are relevant, and then you're going to choose one of the encyclopedias you find, select an entry, and pick 2 or 3 more specific topics. And I have a handout for you to fill out with the diagram of the information search process, and where you could fill out all that information as you go along and find your encyclopedias, find the entry, and find the research topics. So that's it for today. Does anybody have any questions about what we did, about the homework, about next week's class? Yes.
If I use the subject encyclopedia and I find some information, but I don't end up using it, do I still, I'm using the subject encyclopedia to help me write the paper, do I still have to cite it if I don't take something directly from it?
This is a good question. Oftentimes, your professors are not going to want you to cite encyclopedias, right? And that's why when I was bringing up encyclopedias in the beginning, I said it might be something that you see as extra work because it's not going to be there in your paper. Why even bother reading it if it's not going to be there in your paper or not cited? It's not going to be one of your sources. But it's just going to make your whole process much easier. So it's worth it to kind of take the time to find an entry that's maybe a page, 2 pages long, which is really short compared to a lot of the stuff you guys are reading, right? And a lot of stuff the professors are assigning you. And just kind of read and kind of delve into that exploration and figuring out the topic. So you're not citing it in the end, but it's going to bring you into a deeper level of research than you would have had you not used the encyclopedia. Any other questions? No? All right, see you next week.